Behind every headline about artificial intelligence, behind every chatbot, every image generator, every self-driving algorithm, there are a handful of companies most people have never heard of. Not the flashy names dominating news cycles, but quieter, more calculated players pulling strings from the shadows of the technology industry. The artificial intelligence revolution did not emerge from nowhere. It was built on infrastructure, capital, and strategic positioning that took decades to develop. And the companies that understood this earliest are now sitting at the center of a web of influence that touches nearly every corner of the modern world. The most immediate layer of control belongs to semiconductor companies. Without specialized chips, artificial intelligence simply does not function. NVIDIA has become the defining example of this dynamic. Its graphics processing units, originally designed for video games, turned out to be perfectly suited for training massive neural networks. Today, access to NVIDIA hardware is essentially access to artificial intelligence capability itself. Governments and corporations are competing fiercely to secure supply. But NVIDIA is not alone. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, known as TSMC, fabricates the physical chips that power most of the world's advanced computing. Without TSMC's foundries, the entire artificial intelligence industry would grind to a halt. These companies do not build the products consumers see. They build the foundation everything else rests on, which makes their influence invisible but absolute. Above the hardware layer sits cloud infrastructure, and here 3 companies dominate with remarkable consistency. Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud collectively control the vast majority of the computing infrastructure that artificial intelligence companies depend on. When a startup builds a new artificial intelligence model, they almost certainly rent computing power from one of these 3 providers. This creates a dependency that is difficult to overstate. The cloud giants are not just service providers. They are gatekeepers. They decide pricing, they decide availability, and increasingly they are building their own artificial intelligence products that compete directly with the startups relying on their infrastructure. The conflict of interest is enormous, and it is largely operating without serious scrutiny. Venture capital firms and sovereign wealth funds are another layer of control that rarely makes headlines. Companies like Andreessen Horowitz have poured billions into artificial intelligence startups, and with that capital comes significant influence over strategic direction, hiring decisions, and eventual exits. But perhaps more quietly powerful are the sovereign wealth funds from countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which have invested heavily in artificial intelligence infrastructure and companies. These are not passive investors. They are positioning their nations for a future where artificial intelligence determines economic and geopolitical dominance. The money flowing through these channels shapes which technologies get developed, which get abandoned, and who ultimately benefits. Artificial intelligence runs on data, and the companies controlling the largest and most valuable datasets hold a form of power that is almost impossible to replicate. Social media platforms, search engines, and e-commerce giants have spent years accumulating behavioral data on billions of people. This data is the training material for the most capable artificial intelligence systems in existence. Companies like Alphabet, Meta, and Amazon are not just technology companies. They are data empires, and their artificial intelligence capabilities are inseparable from the surveillance infrastructure they have built over decades. Smaller artificial intelligence companies cannot easily compete because they simply do not have access to equivalent data at scale. The concentration of artificial intelligence power in so few hands is not an accident. It is the result of deliberate strategy, enormous capital investment, and regulatory environments that have consistently favored incumbents over challengers. For individuals, businesses, and governments outside this inner circle, the implications are significant. Decisions about how artificial intelligence develops, what values it reflects, and who it serves are being made by an extraordinarily small group of companies and investors. The technology shaping the next century of human civilization is being controlled by fewer decision-makers than most people realize. Understanding who those decision-makers are is the first step toward any meaningful conversation about accountability, regulation, and the kind of future artificial intelligence actually builds.